Welcome to Rugby Rundown. I'm Gavin, and with me as always is Adrian. We're diving into what has to be one of the most shocking opening weekends of rugby we've seen in years. Adrian, when we sat down to preview this season, did you expect we'd be talking about Leinster getting absolutely demolished 35-0 by the Stormers?
Gavin, honestly, no. I mean, we knew the Lions Tour and Rugby Championship would create some unique challenges with all these mandatory rest periods, but a shutout of the defending URC champions? That's not just an upset, that's a statement that echoes across both hemispheres.
And what makes it even more compelling is the contrast with Bath Rugby. Here, you have two reigning champions, both missing their Lion stars, both facing tough away fixtures. But while Leinster crumbled in Cape Town, Bath absolutely thrived at the Stoop, beating Harlequins 47-31. It's a tale of two champions that really sets the tone for this entire season.
Exactly. And that's just scratching the surface. We've got Zebra pulling off a stunning upset against Edinburgh, Owen Farrell orchestrating Saracens' return to form, and Bristol putting on an absolute attacking masterclass. This opening weekend has given us more storylines than most entire months of rugby. Let's break it all down, starting with that absolutely jaw-dropping result in Cape Town.
So, Adrian, let's set the scene here. Leinster went into this season with unprecedented expectations. They were ranked not just as the best team in the URC, but second globally. Everyone was talking about their world-class depth. But when you look at who they were missing, Dan Sheehan, Andrew Porter, Tague Furlong, James Ryan, Josh van der Flier, Jack Conan, Jamison Gibson-Park, that's essentially their entire Lions contingent.
But here's what's so damning about this result, Gavin. They still fielded 13 internationals in that starting 15. This wasn't some development side, and yet they were completely and utterly dismantled. The match report describes their scrum getting beasted from the outset. Rabah Slimani, the veteran French international prop, got a player rating of just 2 out of 10. 2. That's almost unheard of at this level.
And what's particularly interesting is how the Stormers capitalized on this. They were missing key Springboks too. Salman Morat, Deon Fourie were out with injuries, others still on mandatory rest, but their system held firm. Juri Matti was absolutely superb at fly half, contributing 20 points with a try, 3 conversions, and 3 penalties. Evan Roos was at his destructive best with 2 tries.
What really killed Leinster was the discipline breakdown. We'd actually flagged this in preseason analysis as their potential Achilles heel in high-pressure encounters. Yellow cards to Max Deegan at 63 minutes and Tommy O'Brien at 67 minutes saw them reduced to 14, then briefly to 13 men. That's when the Stormers ruthlessly put the game to bed with those roost tries in the 63rd and 68th minutes.
This result has massive implications beyond just one loss. It's shown that Leinster's depth might not be as deep as everyone thought. More importantly, it's provided a tactical blueprint for every other team in the URC. Attack their pack during international windows, and the entire structure can crumble. But let's talk about the weekend's most significant upset.
Zebra stunning Edinburgh 31-28 in Parma. Gavin, to put this in context, Zebra finished last season in 15th place with just 1 victory. They had the league's least potent attack, scoring only 302 points across the entire campaign. Edinburgh are perennial playoff contenders. This is the definition of seizing an opportunity to rewrite your narrative.
It really suggests we might see a compression of the URC table this season. The sentiment that the number of guaranteed wins for the top sides could diminish is looking prophetic after just 1 round. For Italian rugby specifically, a more competitive Zebra creates a stronger foundation for the national team. It's that virtuous cycle of development and success we're always talking about.
Elsewhere in the URC, most of the other contenders delivered as expected. Munster under Clayton McMillan started with a professional 34-21 win at Scarlets, validating predictions of a major bump in fortunes. The Bulls were peak Bulls, devastating in attack with that 53-40 win over the Ospreys, but conceding 40 at home immediately highlights those defensive vulnerabilities that could derail them again.
Glasgow's 35-19 victory over the Sharks was particularly impressive, a strong start to their title defense despite losing Tom Jordan in the offseason. But the Sharks' result is concerning. Here's a team stacked with Springbok talent that began with a dispiriting loss. That's a frustrating trend of underperformance relative to the immense quality on their roster.
Now let's flip to the Premiership, where we saw a completely different story with the reigning champions. Bath Rugby faced a remarkably similar challenge to Leinster, missing their Lions stars, Finn Russell and Will Stewart, plus Springbok prop Thomas Dutoit and new signing Santiago Carreras were still on international duty, but their response couldn't have been more different.
That 47-31 bonus point victory at the Stoop was absolutely sensational, Adrian. What impressed me most was how seamlessly their replacements slotted in. Max Ojomo, thrust into the fly half role for the first time in a league game since 2022, delivered a composed and authoritative performance. Henry Arundel was electric on his Premiership debut, scoring a brilliant brace that showcased his game-breaking talent.
This is what separates Bath from Leinster right now. They didn't just plug holes with replacements, they fielded players who were fully integrated into their systems. It's a testament to Johan van Grand's coaching and the quality of their entire 42-man squad. When you can produce a 7-try attacking masterclass away from home while missing your best players, that sends a message to every team in Europe.
And then there's Bristol Bears putting on a show at Ashton Gate. That 42-24 demolition of Leicester was everything we expected from Pat Lamb's entertainment machine. Louis Rees-Zammit's return from the NFL lived up to the hype. That stunning 65-meter solo, try to seal the bonus point, was pure box office rugby.
But it came at a cost, Gavin. A.J. McGinty with a suspected Achilles injury, Harry Randall with a hamstring tear. This encapsulates the eternal Bristol question. Can their thrilling, high-risk style be sustained over a grueling season without being derailed by injuries? For Leicester, that 18-point defeat raises serious questions about their direction under new coach Jeff Parling.
The most satisfying storyline might be Saracens' resurgence. After missing the playoffs last season, they delivered a brutal 39-17 reality check to Newcastle's Red Bull ambitions. Owen Farrell's seamless return from France was the central narrative. His commanding game management and flawless goal-kicking were instrumental in validating all those preseason predictions about his leadership being the catalyst.
And that 33-33 draw between Northampton and Exeter at Franklin's Gardens was absolutely riveting. A perfect illustration of those tight margins everyone predicted would define the top end of the table this season. Both teams showed they have the attacking firepower to be serious challengers, but neither could land the knockout blow.
So where does this leave us heading into round 2? The pressure is firmly on two clubs. Leinster face an immediate inquest into their squad depth and their ability to cope without frontline leaders. That trip to Pretoria to face the high-scoring Bulls is now a critical test of character. Can they bounce back from this humiliation?
Meanwhile, Bath get their first home game against Sale Sharks, a chance to solidify their position at the summit and reinforce the message they sent from the Stoop. If a depleted Bath is this potent, imagine what a full-strength version will look like. Leicester Tigers are the other team under immediate pressure after that heavy Ashton Gate defeat cast significant doubt on their title credentials.
The opening weekend has established some compelling narratives for the season ahead. Bath's champion DNA versus Leinster's unexpected vulnerability. Bristol's entertaining threat to the established order, but questions about sustainability. Saracens' old guard returning to challenge the new champions. And perhaps most intriguingly, the potential for chaos, with teams like Zebre proving that upsets are very much on the menu this season.
What's clear is that squad depth is going to be absolutely crucial. The teams that can maintain their systems and integrate their second and third choice players will thrive during these international windows. Bath showed us the gold standard, while Leinster provided a cautionary tale about what happens when that depth isn't quite there.
But before we wrap up, Adrian, we should discuss some of the individual performances that caught our eye this weekend. Beyond the obvious storylines, there were some players who really stepped up when their teams needed them most. Starting with that Stormers performance. Jury Matthey's 20-point haul was impressive, but it was his tactical awareness that really stood out.
Absolutely, Gavin. What impressed me about Matthey was his decision-making under pressure. When Leinster's discipline started to crack, he recognized the momentum shift and exploited it ruthlessly. That penalty in the 65th minute to stretch the lead to 28-0 was perfectly weighted. And speaking of tactical awareness, we have to talk about Max Ojomo's performance at the Stoop. Thrust into the fly half role against one of the Premiership's most defensively aggressive teams, and he looked like he'd been playing there all season.
The contrast in game management was stark, wasn't it? Ojomo's distribution was crisp, his tactical kicking was spot on, and he never looked fazed by the occasion. That's the hallmark of Johan van Grand's coaching. Players aren't just slotting in as replacements, they're executing the exact same systems with complete confidence. And then you have Henry Arundel's debut. Those two tries weren't just individual brilliance, they were perfectly timed interventions in the game's critical moments.
And we can't overlook Lewis Rees-Zammit's return to rugby. That 65-meter solo try against Leicester was vintage Rees-Zammit. The acceleration, the footwork, the vision to spot the gap. What's fascinating is how seamlessly he's reintegrated into Pat Lam's system after his NFL adventure. It suggests his rugby instincts remained sharp despite the time away. But there were some concerning performances too. Rabah Slimani's 2 out of 10 rating at Leinster was brutal, but it reflects just how badly their scrum was dominated.
The scrum statistics were damning. Leinster lost 4 scrums on their own feed in the first half alone. That's not just about individual performances, it's systemic. When your pack psychology crumbles like that, it affects every aspect of your game. The line-out, the ruck security, even the backline confidence. It's why that 35-0 scoreline wasn't just bad luck, it was a complete tactical deconstruction. Now, looking ahead to round 2, this creates some fascinating subplots across both competitions.
Exactly. Leinster's trip to Pretoria becomes absolutely crucial now. The Bulls at Loftus Versfeld, coming off that 53-40 attacking display against the Ospreys. That's a hostile environment where wounded teams often get finished off completely. If Leinster can't show immediate character and resilience, we could be looking at a crisis of confidence that derails their entire season. Meanwhile, Bath hosting Sale Sharks presents a different kind of pressure, the expectation to dominate at home and validate their championship credentials.
The ripple effects of this opening weekend extend far beyond individual results too, Adrian. We're seeing a potential shift in the power dynamics of European rugby. Bath's statement performance positions them as genuine European Cup contenders, not just Premiership champions. Bristol's attacking prowess, if they can maintain it without key injuries, could make them the dark horses everyone fears in knockout rugby. And Saracens' resurgence under Farrell's leadership suggests the old guard isn't ready to cede control just yet.
And we can't ignore the international implications either. With the Six Nations looming, these performances will be scrutinized by selectors across all the home nations. Henry Arundel's explosive debut surely puts him back in contention for England. Jury Matthey's masterclass against world-class opposition will have the Springbok coaches taking notice. Meanwhile, Leinster's collapse raises questions about the depth Ireland thought they had during the upcoming autumn internationals.
The beauty of this opening weekend is that it's completely rewritten the narrative heading into round 2. Instead of predictable outcomes and gradual storylines developing, we have immediate crisis points, breakout stars, and tactical blueprints being torn up. This is exactly why we love rugby. The sport's capacity to surprise, to humble the favorites, and to create heroes from unexpected places. Round 2 can't come soon enough. That's Rugby Rundown for this week. We'll be back next week to see how these storylines develop. Will Leinster bounce back in Pretoria? Can Bristol maintain their attacking intensity? And how will Bath handle being the hunted rather than the hunters? Thanks for listening. I'm Gavin.
And I'm Adrian. Keep following the action, and remember, in rugby, as we've seen this weekend, anything can happen. Until next time, keep supporting your team and enjoying this beautiful game.